Hey, real estate rock stars. It's Sarah Denig from Indiana. And today I had the pleasure of interviewing Logan Gratz. He is a NAR 30 under 30 out of Missouri. He is a fourth generation auctioneer. So, I made him do the whole auctioneer speak, talk, whatever that is. And also a second generation realtor. They have a family brokerage and he is crushing it by really getting involved in his community, which I think is something we can all do, giving back to nonprofits, using some of his skills to auction off different things and getting in front of people that way. So lots of good tidbits in this one. Take a listen. Hey, real estate rock stars. It's Sarah Denig from Indiana. And today we have a NAR 30 under 30, Logan Gratz from Missouri. Welcome to the show, Logan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're super pumped to talk to you. I think this 30 under 30 award that is granted is such a huge, cool thing. I don't think I knew about it when I was 30, but I just think I don't think I was in the business when I was 30. But yeah, just congrats on that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely a huge honor.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got in the business, how long you've been in the business, all those fun facts.
Sure. So I grew up, my great grandfather started our company as an auctioneering only company back actually in the late 40s. My grandfather came along and added the real estate side of the company in the 70s to it. So I grew up kind of around real estate and the auctioneering side. Worked auctions, throughout high school and helping out with that. And then once I graduated high school, I knew I wanted to go into some sort of business as a self-employed person. I wanted to be my own boss. I was very driven and motivated. And my grandfather actually was the one that convinced me to get my real estate license. I had actually thought about getting my insurance license first and starting an insurance company. And he convinced me and said, get your real estate license. And if you don't like it, you can always get your insurance license. And so 2 months after graduating high school, I took the class, passed the test, got my real estate license when I was 18, and started from there. I knew I was going to go to college, and so I kind of started part-time in the business, started that fall at a local college here, started trying to build my business and get some experience under my belt. Had my first closing, I think, the second month of college, just a few months after I got my license. Went 4 years, finally graduated, working obviously in the industry throughout that time, trying to build up experience and build up my business, but was, more or less working part-time because it's still going to school. But luckily was able to go to a fairly local school, a couple different local schools, and was able to kind of get started from there. So it's been, last July was 10 years in the business so far. So
you don't talk to many people who are tenured at 30. So that's pretty cool.
It was a slow start.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I was fortunate, going to work for my grandfather's company. He'd been in the business for obviously a long time, very successful at it, had built a great business, and he was just a great mentor from the start. He was one that he just kind of threw you in with the wolves and said, go out and learn and learn from your experiences, but was always there to help with assistance and guidance as needed. So I was very fortunate to have a good leader, good broker, and someone that was able to train me very, very well on how to work the day-to-day operations of the business.
Yeah, and that you trust. I think this business is all about sink and swim, and that's just how you're going to figure it out. And that's why 90% of people don't make it past their first year. So being 18 and licensed, did you deal with any opposition with your age? How did you gain trust being 18? Because we have some brokers who are 18 and they're little hustlers. I mean, their social media is so good, but I feel for them because how do you tell somebody, hey, I just got out of high school, give me your biggest asset to sell?
Absolutely. And that's kind of what molded my entire business, even to what it is today. It's all been relationship building that rapport, building that trust. Obviously, being 18, most of my clients were first-time home buyers, people that I had already had a connection with, or people that I was able to get a connection with and build the rapport, build the trust. Knowing and being upfront with people, guys, I haven't been in this business very long. I'm learning it together, but I've got a great support team behind me that if we ever have any hiccups throughout the way, that they're going to be there to make sure we're doing the right thing. It was almost more difficult working with some of the seasoned agents in the market. Bringing a buyer in and them having a little bit of anxiety with this brand new agent that's 18. Does he really know? Is he going to write the contract right? Is he going to negotiate fairly? Does he know what he's doing? Is he going to have the right processes? And so building that rapport with other agents within our market, building great relationships with them always helped out, because they knew if I was bringing an offer to the table or listing to the market, they knew that I was competent, that I knew what I was doing, and that I was a good agent to work with. And so just building those relationships, not only with the public, with your clients, but also with other realtors within your market, really helped me get a foot in the game early.
Yeah. I think that's a great tip. And I also think for newer agents, really, it's who you align yourself with in your brokerage. And I would find somebody who's very trustworthy and does a great deal of business, because you can really rely on their reputation. You can use their numbers. You can say our team. And I think that's a great way to leverage when you're starting out. And I think everybody should do it.
Absolutely. And picking up on what other realtors at other companies are doing. I mean, they got successful for a reason, seeing what they're doing that is successful, and trying to mirror that, and build your business around that. And obviously, like you're talking about too, using your team as, the fact that we had been in the business in our market, for 40 plus years with my grandfather and his experience, and the other agents that were on our team. We had over 300 years of real estate experience that was backing everybody that we took on. So definitely leveraging those assets. It's key.
Yeah. What brokerage are you with? Is it a
It's
family brokerage?
or a family private brokerage. Yep, always have been.
Wow. That's really interesting. I think a lot of people, when they go to these big like EXP and Compass, and they look at, hey, should we do like a family brokerage? And I think it's a little overwhelming to figure out the back end and cap management and all that stuff can be a lot. So kudos to your family for being able to make that happen.
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in being that. And we're very hands on, and that's the thing. You obviously want to go to a brokerage that's going to give you the right training and the right supports, systems and everything like that. And I think that's what our agents appreciate. The other big
Mhm.
key about our brokerage as a whole is, we're very involved in the community. We give back to a lot of different charitable organizations, and we're involved in many different philanthropies and civic organizations and chamber. And so just being present and involved in the community built, really our brand as a company, and as a family.
Yeah. What's your community like? Is it a smaller town, bigger town? You're in Missouri, right?
We're a big, small town. Jefferson City is kind of our hub. It's the capital of Missouri, but city limits is really only about 50,000. But we're really more of a metro area. We've got about a 30-mile radius around us that all work and commute and kind of travel in between. We're about 30 miles south of Columbia, where the University of Missouri is. So it really is a big, small town. You can get across town in 10, 15 minutes pretty quick, and a lot of people like that. But our market last year, our average sales price was around 275,000. So it's an affordable place to live. The majority of our workforce and our economy is state government employees, because of the state capital being here in Jeff City. So very stable economy. Even when '08 happened, we didn't see the significant reduction in prices like the rest of the country did, just because of a stable economy, stable workforce.
Sounds like a nice bubble to be in. But at 275, you're probably doing a lot of volume then.
Yeah, you've got to do quite a bit. And so I know, like in 2021, I think I had the highest transactions in the 10 years I did 83 transactions myself. Last year did a little bit over 18 million, and I think a little over 20 million in volume the year before. So
It's
you got to
fantastic.
really put the hours and the work in to get the reward back out of it.
Where are you getting a majority of those leads?
So when I started, obviously building relationships, I did do some paid leads, through Zillow and Realtor.com, and some other platforms and stuff like that. I started, really spending a lot of money on advertising, and I found that you can go broke really quick if you just advertise, and everything's online. And so really built my business around building those relationships. I joined the local chamber, joined their young professionals group, was heavily involved, got on their board, made great connections there. Uh, being on the auctioneering side of the company, we get asked all the time to do a lot of benefit auctions. And so I do probably over 30 benefit auctions, whether it's from church picnics, quilt auctions to events where someone is raising money to pay for medical bills because they have cancer or some health issue, to benefits for, the Boys and Girls Club, American Heart Association, the Samaritan Center, just a lot of different non-for-profits, and it's our way of giving back, but it also gives me the ability to build relationships, get in front of people, meet a bunch of different people. And so today, in the last few years, all of my business has been strictly referrals and building relationships. Obviously still doing some marketing on the side, but not doing any paid leads or anything like that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that when you are a public figure and you're getting involved in the community, I think that builds a lot of trust. And that trust translates to, can you help me buy and sell? Because you're putting yourself out there, you're volunteering your time, you're being a good person, and that's who people want to work with. So I can see how that serves you. Um, I'm so intrigued by this auctioneering. First off, I have so many questions. What did you go to college for? What was your
Just
study?
I got a business management, a bachelor's of business management. So it helped me, with, when it comes to marketing and accounting and basically all the principles of running a business.
Mm-hmm.
I higher education and we kind of had our differences. Missouri, actually, they have an A+ program where you can attend a 2-year college for free. State covers it.
Oh,
And so I did that to start.
yeah.
Got all my gen eds done in a year and a half. And then I transferred to the University of Missouri, got into their business school, and they required an internship. I had already, been in the business for 2 years, trying to build my brand as a realtor, and had planned on doing it for the rest of my life. And they would not let me do my internship in real estate. So because of that, we had our differences, and I transferred back to a smaller 4-year college, though, here in Jeff City, Lincoln University. They didn't require an internship, and just finished with a business management degree from there. So
I love that. I think I'm going to tell my kids they're going to have to get their real estate license when they go to college because, like, campus housing, they can get in, an entrepreneur from the beginning. Maybe they can connect me. Who knows? That's really smart. Okay, so the auctioneering. When you go to auctioneer, is it auctioneer school? Did they teach you to talk that fast?
So they have an auctioneering school. My great grandfather, and actually my dad. So I'm a fourth generation in our family auctioneer. They all went to school. I never actually did. They had us working auctions, from a very young age, helping out, not always, actually being the auctioneer. And I went to enough that I practiced enough and picked up on it enough that I was able to learn the talk, if you will. But really, even if you go to auctioneering school, the main thing that they teach you is to come up with a filler word. So you need a word that goes, in between the numbers. And I think today they're teaching bitter dollar. So they would, you would start out by trying to get your rhythm. So you would say one bitter dollar, and as quick as, and try to pick it up and to the point where you go one bitter dollar, one bitter dollar, one bitter dollar. And I found my filler word, and it was just bid. I don't know where it came from. And it just worked for me. So I always used a bit of one, a bit of one, a bit of one, a bit of two, a bit of two, a bit of two, a bit of three, a bit of three, a bit of three. And so I just kind of picked it up from their guidance and their help. So
That's like a super cool party trick. I think I would use it all the time.
yeah, uh, it's a very unique industry, that is for sure. But it's an
How does
interesting
that work?
industry, though.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting industry because there's so many different facets to auctioneering. From as we do, we do real estate auctions. Most of the time when we do real estate auctions, instead of actually taking property to the traditional market, through MLS and the normal real estate side, uh, we do an auction. Most of the time it's land. Just around central Missouri, land tends to sell a little bit better at auction. We do have some instances with actual houses that will sell at auction. Sometimes it's because, whether there's going to be just that high of demand for the property, or, maybe it's a fixer upper and the people just, are ready to move on from it and just want to get it gone. But the nice part about doing a real estate auction is the buyer sets the price. And that's the main difference between a traditional listing. Traditional listing, the realtor and the seller get together, they come up with a value they think is fair, take it to market, and everybody knows what the price is. At an auction, you don't advertise that price. Sometimes you may advertise a starting bid or a minimum of what it's got to bring, but typically when we do real estate auctions, we don't advertise that. And so at the end of the day, whatever that property sells for at auction is ultimately set by who the highest bidder is. And so the process is a lot, as far as after the sale's complete, a lot of the same as a normal real estate transaction in the traditional market. It's really just how you come up with that price, and the process to get there is the difference between the auction and traditional listing. But we also, outside of real estate auctions, we do farm machinery auctions. We do estate sales. One of the big niches for us is we're kind of an all-in-one stop shop for people that are downsizing or moving to a retirement community, or if mom and dad unfortunately pass away and the kids inherit, the house, and they've got the china cabinet that has their wedding china, and nobody does wedding china anymore. They use plastic plates. They've got all their antiques that they collected throughout the years that the kids unfortunately just don't want or don't have room for. And so they've got this house full of stuff that they need to um, unfortunately get rid of and move on from, but they need to get the house vacant so they can sell it because it's either too cluttered or there's just too much stuff or what have you. So our office offers a one-stop shop. We come in and we load and we take, what's sellable, take it to an auction, help them liquidate that. We remove any items that aren't sellable, that are perishable, get the house empty, get it cleaned, get it ready to go to market, and then we can get it on the market. So people have a one-stop shop of going through that entire process. We deal with a lot of families that uh, the kids moved out of town and they left Central Missouri, and mom and dad are still here. And so working and trying to go through that process from across the country, it makes it really easy for them to have one point of contact throughout the whole transaction.
That's really cool. And I'm sitting here thinking, so I'm an investor and we do flips. And one of my bread and butter is usually somebody comes and they say, hey, somebody passed, somebody's sick, we want to sell this home. And my first response is always like, I'll buy it. I'll hit the easy button. I'll clean it out and let's flip it. I'm wondering if that would be, and I'm always looking for deals. I'm wondering if finding somebody who is into auctions, if I should partner with them here locally to try to get my hands on some of these, because when it's wholesale, it's already inflated. When it's on the MLS, it's already inflated. But I think there could totally be a niche there with getting with somebody who does something like you and
Absolutely.
buying those houses.
And we run into it a lot where, the generation that, is getting up there in age now, they collected everything and antiques, and they didn't throw anything away. And so we run into a lot of full on hoarding situations, and the property ends up being distressed and hasn't been maintained because of it. And so yeah, you run into a lot of those situations where they would be really good flip properties, and we've got a good list of clients that follow us to kind of wait to see when we have some of them listings or sell them at auction too, as good flip opportunities.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I bet you're going to start buying these up because when you go to an auction, you can't like go in and check out the foundation and all those things, right? You just kind of see the house and you figure that out from there. But
So the
you
way
can go in and look at it.
Yeah, so the way we do it is we always do two open houses. So people have the opportunity to at least come tour it. It's not like a normal foreclosure sale where you can never even go look at it. But we also recommend to sellers to have it inspected. So we have all the sellers pay for a mechanical inspection. It helps for two reasons. One, it helps for disclosure issues. They don't want to be sued for something that they weren't even aware of that was wrong with the property. And so we have it inspected and give that copy of it to all the buyers and say, here's what the problems are. You're taking it as is, but at least you're aware of it. So buyers like that because they know a little bit more than just walking through it of what they're getting into. But sellers like it too because of a disclosure standpoint.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that mitigates so much risk for the potential buyer. Very good. So, tell me about your team. Do you have a team, or are you an independent broker? How are you operating your business that way?
So all of our agents, we work as a team under the umbrella of the brokerage, but we're really all independent agents. So we help each other out, of course, and we work together on, pricing strategy and different situations. But pretty much we're all independent agents working underneath the brokerage. So we've got 9 agents now. A couple are part time, but the majority are full time agents. We've got different pockets, different communities that a lot of our agents are niches in. Traditionally our office, we've had a couple different offices through the years, throughout Jeff City and downtown, but we actually made a pretty strategic move a few years ago. We live just outside of Jeff City, my family, and kind of where we grew up in a smaller community, a suburb of Jeff City. We moved our office out there a few years ago, and it was huge because we actually live in a school district that's one of the top accredited school districts in the state, one of the highest test scoring school districts. They have been very successful in sports, winning numerous state championships in recent years. Uh, we have great facilities. But because of the success of the school district, the market within that district just went crazy, and it's one of the most expensive markets to get into because of how successful the school district is. We have people that come from all across the state that hear about it just because of the school, and they want to send their kids there. So strategically, we moved our office out here. It was a great move for us, and we've picked up a lot of market share, obviously in the area because of it. But we've also got agents that live uh, around Jeff City in smaller, markets that they hone in on as well. So we, I always tell people we really work about a 30 to 40 mile radius around Jeff City, but we've got an agent that touches a niche market, it seems, within all of those areas.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, 10 years in the business now, and mostly the business is referrals. How are you staying in contact with your clients? How are you loving on them? And like, what advice would you give a new agent who's starting out and building that pipeline? How to love on your people, basically?
Well, just staying in contact is key, and being present, being as involved as I am in a community and the different organizations. A lot of my clients I've met through those different organizations. So just being present and seeing them out. Whether you're at the grocery store, you're at an event, or you're helping out with a fundraiser or whatever it is. And just always staying in contact with them, always having conversations with them, and checking in on them, and just being present and being involved. Get involved, as especially if you're a new agent, with as many organizations as you can. Volunteer for committees or for non-for-profits, because the more people you meet, the more relationships you build, the more rapport you get, the better trust you're going to have, and then hopefully you're the first when it comes to, when someone needs help and needs to buy or sell, that you're the first one that comes to mind when that time comes.
Yeah, we talk a lot about not being a secret agent, and I think that personally, I am out in the community a lot. By like, if it's something with my kids' school, getting very involved with those type of things, and organically you're going to meet people. Or if you like to golf and you're out at the golf course, and those conversations they come up all the time, and people love to talk about their biggest asset, which is their how much equity they have, and really like staying and on top of those conversations, and hopefully being the mayor that if housing comes up, you're the first person people think about.
That's the thing, is I tell a lot of new agents and agents that ask me, advice for when they start, is when you get in real estate, it's a 24/7 business, not only for your clients, but you talk about real estate 24/7. Everyone loves to talk about real estate because it affects everybody. Everybody wants to know how the market is. Everybody, wants to know your prediction of what it could be and how it's been going. And so, like you said, whether you're on a golf course, at a bar, having dinner, everyone loves to talk about real estate. And so when you constantly are talking about it and you're knowledgeable about it, that's the next piece of advice I give everybody is, when you join an MLS, you have all that information there. You have all the statistics. If you can hone in and really know the market, know the statistics, know the inventory, know what's out there, um, knowledge is key. And when you come across with that knowledge, people will trust you and know that you know what you're talking about, and that you're in the day to day business of that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you pick an area and you get hyper local on it and you know the ins and outs. And it's just like, when you're prepping for an open house, you need to know what's around the area. So if this house isn't for them, you can pick up that buyer and say, hey, I understand you want one more bedroom. Down the street has that exactly what you're talking about. Let me get your number. Let's go check it out. You just really have to know data, and it's all about the data. It really is. And you can talk in and out. Pricing, if you can just lean on data all day long, it kind of takes you out of the equation and you're like, well, the market doesn't lie. So it's been really weird around here. I had a luxury house on the market, went on like right before election. We were on and we had good traffic, but we sat for like 30 days and it was really slow around that time, especially in the luxury market here. And then I put it on the market this week and it sold in a day. So it's just, and I had all the data and all the things. And sometimes even when I'm saying it's all data, it's just so random. I just can't explain real estate sometimes. Like, why did we sit for 30 days and we go on one day and nothing changed? Nothing.
it's the strangest thing. Sometimes the properties you think will sell the fastest take the longest, and the ones you think will never sell, as quick as possible. So it is strange, but there's obviously the two big keys. Everyone knows the first big key: location, location, location. But the second big key is timing, and trying to figure out the right timing in the market is critical.
See, and I had that conversation with my seller actually on the way here, and we were talking about how it's all about timing. But I also have an opposition to that because people are like, is it a bad time to sell? And I'm like, no, any days, 7 days a week is a good time to sell because there's always death and there's always divorce and there's always babies happening and situations change and job changes. But I think we just do the best we can to get it out there and get the property in the best condition as possible and then see what the market says.
The market will always tell you, and that's the thing. And like you said, there's buyers constantly for every reason possible out there. You just never know when someone specifically needs to move and when that right timing, is. Obviously, looking at specific neighborhoods. If you're in a neighborhood, seeing how much inventory is in the neighborhood. If there's five other houses that are very similar that have been sitting on the market for a couple of weeks, maybe you should wait a couple of weeks until a couple of them sell, so there's not so much inventory. Or if there hasn't been a house in that price range, close in that neighborhood for a while, yeah, it probably is a good time, because if someone wants to get to that specific location, you're their only option at the time. So looking at the market holistically, and inventory levels and everything like that is key as well.
Yeah. And something you said earlier about the relationships in the business, and I think those relationships with other agents are so important, and your reputation is everything. What I really like to do is when I have a listing coming and there's pendings happening or some similar comps, pick up the phone and call the agents. They don't have to be in your brokerage. And most of the time, there's always going to be a few wet blankets who aren't going to help you out for whatever reason. But pick up the phone and ask, how has traction been? Like, are you getting a lot of people through your open houses? What has the feedback been? And then you kind of know the buyer pool that you're looking at. And then when you go to sit down with the sellers, you can say, hey, Mr. Seller, like I did the grunt work and I talked to all these people and this is what the market looks like. And I think that going those extra miles for your sellers just to get that information is key.
Absolutely, absolutely. Having a good rapport with a variety of different agents, like you said, even if they're not within your company, just to bounce ideas back and forth off of. I was fortunate enough to get involved with our local board, and able to make a lot of great relationships that way as well. So yeah, being able to bounce those ideas back and forth is key. One other thing that our market does, I don't know if your guys' market does it, is we do agent open houses. If you got a house or a property that's been sitting for a while, we actually invite realtors to come in and give feedback. And so it's great from that perspective of you can get the feedback, but you also get an agent in the door that maybe hasn't been in the door before. And when they're there, they may think, man, I've got this client that this would be perfect for. And so it gives a lot of benefit there to sellers of getting the feedback, but also getting other agents in the door that may have clients for it.
I agree. We love brokers open. We like to get the feedback. We're like, please be brutally honest, because sometimes it's good to hear for the sellers to hear it from somebody else. And sometimes when you're in it, you can get a little biased too. You can get a little nose blind because you're like, this is great. So I think it's great to have that feedback. And also, I think as an agent, it's really good to visit those and get involved with trying to make that happen. I've had clients and they've said, "Hey, this is what I want." We've looked, and I go into a broker's open and I'm like, "Wait, this would be great for the Smiths." And then, do a video. And I have literally been in a broker's open and called my client and said, "I found your house," and they bought it. And I saw it online. I don't know why it didn't register me then, but it's just a little outside of the box, but I knew it could work. But until you're there, sometimes you don't know what the space actually looks like. And you're like, oh, this could actually work. I also really like brokers open for socials. So I think a lot of I think a lot of people are going to different listings just to do social content. And I think that's so great. What we as a brokerage try to do is we have a spreadsheet and it's all the things that are coming. And some of these 18, 19, even me, whoever it is, find me the buyer. Like, go advertise this on your social media and find me the buyer. And I think that's a whole nother can of worms that you can open to get business, is just going around and seeing what's on the market, get on social media, talk about what that is, and you might have the buyer in your sphere. You really might. And maybe they weren't even looking. And I will also say, this is kind of interesting, and I want to hear how it is in Missouri. Open houses have kind of changed since the buyer agency agreement here locally, we've noticed, because what I think is happening is now you have to sign something to go see a house with someone, and people don't really want to marry a realtor quite yet. They don't know, or they're not like, I don't know if I really want to move. And they're kind of looky loosies. So we're getting a lot of people who are coming in the open house who just didn't really want to commit to somebody. So we've double dipped both sides. It's kind of been great. It's kind of brilliant. So I don't know. Are you guys seeing that at all?
A little bit. It's the one benefit I would say, especially the buyer's agents that I've seen a lot more at open houses, is just the number of people that are already working with somebody, which is great. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they've gone and they've picked a realtor and they've committed to them. Um, so it's that trend from when I started to today is completely different. When I started, nobody would say that they were working. They were just casually looking or what have you. But I think buyers agents are doing a really good job of consulting with their clients and getting them to sign that agency agreement and commit to them to work with them. And so we see a lot of the people that come through open houses are already working with somebody.
I love your optimism, because I'm kind of like, I think buyers are liars. I think they're just saying they're working with somebody. They're not really working with somebody.
It's definitely been a change in the market. I see that, and the same with pre-approvals. We used to harp on people. The first thing you got to do is get pre-approved, and nobody was pre-approved when I started. And you'd work through that process, and very rarely do we run across buyers in today's market that haven't already gone through their due diligence and gotten pre-approved on their own. So I think
Mm-hmm.
buyers are becoming a lot more educated, and I think it's great for us. It alleviates, that part of it.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, I think that's great, especially because you don't want to waste your time if we're looking at $500,000 houses and you can't afford over 300. So definitely pushing that that's a great pro tip. Make sure they're pre-approved first. So you've been in the business 10 years, 30 under 30. What is the next 5 years look like? Like, what's in the pipeline? What are your goals? Tell me about that.
Just continuing to build our market share, hopefully continue to build our team. Our market share since the 10 years I've been here has grown tremendously. I think our office was ranked maybe 11th in our market in total volume. I think last year we were up to fifth. And so for being a non-franchise small private company and with a large number of brokerages in our area, it was we've had a lot of success. So continuing to build that success. I did get my broker's license a couple of years ago, and I think over the next 5 years we may see a transition of actually taking over the company and having more of a brokerage role or a broker role in the company. So we're just continuing to build our market share, build our sphere, build our team, um, and give back to our community like we have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're fourth generation, you said?
Fourth generation auctioneer, but just second generation in the real estate business. But it was my grandfather's company, but actually my grandmother was a lender in the lending industry, both on the commercial and residential side for 30 plus years, and had her real estate license through it, never used it, but just had it. And when she retired, she came and worked for the company as well. And so that just brought a ton of, information when it comes on the lending side, and knowing all of those different loan programs and everything like that. It's a huge help to our agents. And so they both are still active, very active and working, and they're our managing brokers. But yeah, at some point, I would say within the next 5 years, having that transition, taking on more of a broker role, and continue to build our team and build our market share.
Yeah, that's really cool. My husband's a lender as well, and it is so valuable to, be on the phone at 9 o'clock on a Thursday night and get these loan questions. And I'm like, here's your arena. And it's just so nice to have somebody who understands the ins and outs and just can, bounce those ideas off right there. I think as a realtor, you really need to pair with a solid lender who's going to pick up the phone all the time and answer those questions, especially when you're in a multiple offer situation. And it's one of those things like, can we go from FHA to conventional? Like, could we pull this off? Because that might, push the envelope a little bit further, that maybe we will get the deal with, depending on what the loan type is. So many ins and outs with that.
Absolutely. And having a great relationship with appraisers and inspectors. And I don't know, one thing when I started out, I did not miss an inspection because I wanted to know and see everything they called out, why they called it out, what it is, what's it going to cost to fix. So, and my clients, I think that's one of the biggest things they appreciate is when we go through a property, we're pointing out things that, the inspector is going to call out. And we've got the knowledge of here's an approximate estimate of what it's going to cost to fix, and maybe it's not as big of a deal as you think it is, or it's a bigger deal than it is. Having that knowledge of not having to spend all that money on an inspection when it's right there in front of you, and it's knowledge you built, and the clients, I really appreciate that, and they also know that you're not just trying to sell them on something. If you're truly calling out issues as you walk through a property, they know and they trust you because they know you're trying to take care of them. I tell all my clients, I don't want you to call me in 6 months and be mad that I sold you this property because of all the issues you've had. I want you to call me, in a year or 5 years or 10 years and say, I've loved this property. Now I'm ready to downsize or move up. So truly taking care of your clients and just being honest and pointing those things out, and learning from inspectors, and same with appraisers, having good rapport with them. If you get into an appraisal issue, being able to, if you've built a relationship with that appraiser, and appraisal comes in short or there's issues, being able to have a good dialogue with them and share with them the comps that you used or to come up with that value, and seeing if they'll reconsider or look at that. And if you have that good rapport, they can lead to better outcomes.
Yeah. There's so many things that can make the deal fall apart too. I mutual released this morning on a property, $250,000, and there needed to be $45,000 worth of repairs. And it was just brutal. I mean, everything that could go wrong. And it's actually a family member of mine. And I'm like, here's the quotes for everything. They're not willing to do it. Let's just walk away. And we did. And it's unfortunate, but I want to find her something that's solid, because I know I'm going to be the one listing that in 2 years. And inherently, those are going to be our issues. And you just want to protect people. You don't want them to close and have all these bills. So me personally, when I get the inspection, I used to attend them all too. I don't really do that as much anymore, but I do go through the inspection, and I do call the inspector afterwards to kind of, hey, give me high level. Is this a big deal or not? And we have an in-house team that we kind of send it to, and it's a one-stop shop, and they quote everything. And then I can say, hey, Mrs. Buyer, this is what we're getting into. This is what it's going to cost. And then I send that off and ask for cuts to be checked to our vendors at closing. But we do run into, especially with investors, they want to fix everything themselves, which sometimes is fine, but you just never know what kind of job they're going to do. And is it going to be half done? It's hard. So we like to have that control and really know from the get-go what those costs are going to be. And then with the appraisal, I agree. I think all agents I basically do the appraiser's job. Like, I put together the packet, I give it to them, I call them, and I have a really good friend who's an appraiser, and we have them come talk to the brokerage and different vendors. And I'm like, does that offend you at all? And they're like, no. I mean, we love that because we have the insight on the market. We're selling all the things. So I can say, hey, this is my comp, and it really will hold up. And sometimes you go back and forth with them, but I think giving them that knowledge just helps everybody.
Absolutely. And finding out, there's always changes and adjustments that they're making and why are they making those changes. And so knowing that up front when you're doing your pricing strategy and coming up with the value, what adjustments they're going to be making. And if you can mirror that, hopefully it'll
Yeah.
lead to not having nearly as many appraisal issues as you could potentially run into.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to kind of study what the appraiser used once you get that back, especially if you're a new agent. I just think it's fascinating to see what value they put on various things, like a 3-car garage versus a 2, a basement, those type of things. Because when you go to price houses, you can lean back on the knowledge. Well, I just had an appraisal done, and this car had one more garage. So I think maybe we need to add 10 more $1,000 to the listing, and just those kind of little hyper local tidbits, what's happening in your market. And there can always be a one off, but it's just such good knowledge to know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We run into it a lot with detached garages. Um, you
With
know,
what?
with detached garages, like an extra shop behind the house or something like that, and coming up with those values, and it's somewhat uniform, but it's also different. Different appraisers make different adjustments, and they have their reasoning behind it and their data behind it to support it. So knowing, where within the market those adjustments are, it really is beneficial.
Or do you guys have like a lot of detached 1-car garages?
Um, we've got a lot of just detached garages, a lot of rural areas, where they've got smaller acreage or larger acreage and farms where they may have multiple outbuildings. And so coming up with those values and how appraisers are valuing them is key in our market.
Yeah, that's interesting. Isn't Missouri super cold? Seems like you'd want an
It
attached
is right
garage.
now. It is right now. We get all 4 seasons to the extreme. We get the extreme cold, just snowed again yesterday, and in the
Mm-hmm.
summer it'll be 100 degrees and humid as all get out. So we get all 4 seasons to the extreme.
Indiana's the same. It's the same.
Yep.
That's really interesting. I just bought a house, and it had a detached garage and an attached garage, and the area has mostly detached. So what we did was we turned that attached garage, we made it the primary suite and leveled it up, and got rid of the garage door, all that good stuff, and made it just like a really, really cool primary suite with an ensuite bathroom, huge closet. And I'm like, that seems like my ROI is going to be way better than this being a garage.
Definitely, anytime you can add square feet, and especially above grade square footage, it's going to help out a ton.
So have you dabbled in investments or flipping yet?
We do some personal investing as far as rentals and single family rentals and multifamily rentals. Never really wanted to get much into the flip business personally, but we are into the rental market business ourselves. We work with clients on everything but property management. That's the one thing we don't do. We manage our own properties, but we help people, with single family, multifamily. We do commercial as well, but property management is one thing we never really wanted to get into.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a
There's a
lot
lot
to
of
get in.
time, yeah, and commitment and a lot of back end with the property management side. So we decided that's just not what we were going to focus on.
Yeah. So what other advice do you have for new agents getting into business, trying to get business? Because you got into 18 and you're at 30. I mean, that's amazing. 10 years and you still have so much ahead of you.
Big thing is, like I've talked, you got to build the relationships, but getting involved, being involved in as many organizations as possible. My clients know that I am very familiar with our market because they know I'm involved, with the chamber. I've been involved with other civic organizations and task forces. I've been on this housing task force that we've been looking at trying to. We've just got a housing shortage in Central Missouri and a rental shortage and affordability issues. And so working on those things, working with new developers on new potential developments and where new housing is coming in. And so my clients know because of my involvement that I know, what's coming and what's
Mm-hmm.
happening within the market. And so just picking up on that knowledge, being involved is how you can get that knowledge. And just building those relationships is key.
Do you guys do a lot of new construction there?
Yes and no. Unfortunately, we haven't been building enough to keep up with the demand, but I think that's the same across the country. But we do work with some developers, and we've been working with a couple here recently that will be coming, and some new subdivisions. And the problem with Central Missouri and our market is we don't have the flattest ground. It's a little hilly. We're close to the Ozarks, so getting infrastructure, wastewater to it is the difficult part. So finding creative ways to do development in our area has been critical, and we're starting to see some more of that coming.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we don't realize how much it costs to actually develop the land and get it ready for utilities and get utilities to that area. It's the whole thing. And I think that the longer you're in the business and the more you help people with land, and it's fascinating that how much goes into that.
And it's always inflationary. It's always going up. It's never going to get any cheaper.
Buy land, buy land.
That's right. They don't make any more of it.
Well, awesome. This has been great. Where can our followers find you?
You can find us on Facebook at Logan Gratz, on Instagram, LinkedIn, or you can go to our website. It's just callgratz.com. If anybody's looking to move or needs help in Central Missouri, we'd be happy to help.
Awesome. Well, I think there's a lot of actionable takeaways. Get involved in your community, be the mayor of your area, get to know people and build those relationships. And organically, business is going to come from that. And I think that you figuring that out has probably been why you're so successful. So kudos to you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All right, real estate rock stars, have a great day.